No, I'll probably move this there.
Why is it different than other forms of medicine, and how effective is it?
Oh, I see.
You can treat
I tend to
anything
wander
with
a little bit, but
homeopathy.
if you tell me how far I can
You
go.
can also use it for emotional and spiritual things that afflict people. So, without further ado, let's welcome Paola.
Hello. Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Let me help you with that, and then I'm going to grab this so I can look at my notes. Thanks, everyone, for being here. You guys are super awesome. I've been very much looking forward to coming. I've heard a lot about you from Shauna, and I'm like, I wonder what these people are going to be like. You guys look very normal, but in a good way. So not in a conventional world way. I'm here with my son, Christian. He's in the back there. And then my cousin, Kalel. He's in uniform wearing a t-shirt I apparently gave him a long time ago that says homeopathy on it. So let's just jump in, and I would love to answer questions. So that's not a lot of time to get through a lot of stuff. But let me just start with an inspiring story that happened to me a couple of days ago. So a week ago today, I dropped my son off at the MTC. He's going to Brazil, where I was born. And on the way home, that kid right there, my son, was like, Mom, I'm feeling kind of sick. And I was like, oh no, Lord in heaven, it's the stomach flu. And then we stopped by like a pretty healthy restaurant, gourmet burgers, but like, grass fed. And so we pulled over, we're eating, and he's in the bathroom, like upchucking. And I'm just like, oh no, I don't want it. It's gonna hit me like on Thanksgiving, I know it. So we get home, and he has like a bowel movement, but just not feeling good. Sorry, Christian, sorry. And he comes out of the bathroom and he goes, it's really weird, but it really hurts right here. And I'm like, we are not talking stomach flu, we're talking life or death. And so I was just, and mine burst when I was 20 something, so I know. And I was just like, okay. So what did I do? I reached for my homeopathy kit, you guys. And I'm not stupid, like I'll go to the doctor, but if his appendix is bursting, he would be in quite a lot more pain, I know. But he's just having the initial beginning stages, right? And it's getting a little worse as the day's going on. So I just went for the symptoms. I actually did a quick little Google search. I said, homeopathy for appendix pain. And the internet is like, go to the hospital. I'm like, I know. And then it gave like a short list of remedies. And I just thought I'd start there. I started researching each one. I knew exactly which one to give him. I'm going to teach it tonight. It's called Bryonia. And I gave it to him. And by the end of the evening, there was a shift towards the better, which is what you're looking for in homeopathy. After that improvement, I did all my other stuff. I did castor oil pack, which is good, which is not homeopathy. I did all that stuff that you guys probably know, castor oil packs. We put him on like a high fiber diet with like flax seeds and chia seeds, because apparently with your appendix, like if you're a little backed up, it can back up into the appendix, which is actually what causes it to get infected and to burst. A lot of times, sometimes it's out of place. I even took him to do a little visceral massage, but by the time we took her to this lady that does visceral massage here in Utah, his pain was a zero, like zero pain. And I'm telling you, I always wait before I layer on all the extra stuff, the castor oil packs, the supplements, before I layer all that stuff, I wait to do the homeopathy first, because that's my workhorse. It has done so much for my family. So here's another story. We live on a homestead. We have on and off for a number of years. And I was moving some farm equipment, and my hand scraped against this little metal thing that kind of flipped up. And it was this very surface flesh wound. And I was like, oh, no big deal. I rinsed it with water. It wasn't even bleeding, which, for the record, is never good. Because if it doesn't bleed, the wound doesn't clean itself. Within a few hours, I had a red line coming down my hand this way. Very, very painful. And then I do a quick Google search. Tetanus. Like, what are and they're like, if there's rust, manure, and dirt. And I like run outside, rust, manure, dirt, oh my gosh. So I was very stressed, and I had this red line, and I'm like, okay, well, this is typically what I do when it comes to, life or death. Am I gonna die now? Or like in a few days? So and I was like, well, this, death takes a minute, okay? So I decided I'm gonna take some homeopathy instead. By morning, the line was gone. And I even said, I had marked it with like a pen. And I said to my husband, like, do you see the line? And he's like, no, it's totally gone. I'm like, okay, because I still see that. And we call that anxiety. Yes. So then another story is when we were working on our beehives, my husband got stung by a bee. And, he's daddy cool. And I'm like, hey, I should give you a little remedy for that. And he's like, I'm fine. I don't need a remedy for everything, Paula. I'm like, okay. So we go inside. By the third day, his entire arm was swollen. And I was hitting him with like the homeopathy for allergic reactions. It was not getting better. It was getting worse. His shirt was getting tight, and he's not like buff. So I was like, this is not good, Don't tell him I said that, Christian. And so we took him to the doctor, and the doctor was like, oh, it's cellulitis. So the stinger or his skin had staph or strep, like throat strep, on the surface, and it wasn't bothering him. There was no broken skin. But the stinger pushed it in, and his entire arm was infected. And there was this redness that was moving up towards his lymph node. And once it gets to the lymph node, they just spread that infection everywhere, and then we call that sepsis. So we were pretty worried about this. So again, I asked myself the question, are we dying now or like maybe later this week? And we decided to do the homeopathy within we hit it pretty hard, and I'll teach you how to hit it pretty hard if you need to, if you're worried. Within 4 hours, he could feel this relief, like the throbbing kind of stopped that had been there. So we know we're on the right track. By the end of the week, he was 100% better. And what I like to do when I'm like dealing with like a serious infection, I try and find people on the internet that like blogged about when they had something similar to see how long it took them to get better. Because doctors don't really know how the body heals. They slap an antibiotic on it, and it's not the natural progression of healing. Sometimes things need to come to a head and burst and, ooze or whatever it is, So you just don't know. And when you take an antibiotic, that stuff doesn't happen. And so I remember I found this one guy that had had a similar cellulitis experience that had gotten as bad as my husband. And it took him a full month and a half before he got better. My husband was better in 7 days. So homeopathy is amazing medicine. It's the best, most wonderful emergency medicine. It works faster than anything else. And I do herbs, I do essential oils, I do all that stuff. But nothing comes close to the speed and efficacy for serious infections like homeopathy. My backstory is I used to be a very healthy gal. I was born in Brazil, immigrated to the United States. We were too poor to have medical insurance or doctors, which ended up being a huge blessing for us because, drink water and walk it off was kind of the plan. And my mom actually brought with her a little homeopathy kit. And she would she didn't really know homeopathy, but she would kind of use a little book and figure stuff out. And that's kind of how we went along. Then I got married. I was built to be a nun. TMI, but I was. And I got lots of honeymoon cystitis, which meant I got a lot of UTIs, which meant that I got a lot of gut damage. And by the time I was 25, I was suffering with multiple autoimmune diseases. The main one was interstitial cystitis, which if you don't know what that is, picture this. Think of your bladder. Are you thinking of it? Okay. Now, light it on fire, turn it inside out, and put it out with a track shoe. My doctor said that the inside of my bladder looked like ground beef. It was so painful. It hurt to just walk because just like the natural thumping of your body, that rhythm just was so painful. Then I developed celiac disease. Then I developed an autoimmune disease where I was itching all over my body from head to toe and I couldn't leave my room. And I went through the ringer. It was quite painful, quite difficult. And in the end, I tried so many different things. I tried conventional medicine. I went to the Mayo Clinic. They literally looked me in the eye and they said, you are doing better managing your diseases on your own than any drug we would ever want to give you. And I was like, okay. So then I started all this natural stuff. There's this acronym, TEETH. Tried everything else, then homeopathy. And that's what I did. I took that first little pellet and I had this Ratatouille flashback to like my childhood. And you get it? That's good. Good job. I took that pellet and I was like, I remember taking this as a kid. And then it was like my life went full circle, and that was the one thing that changed my health. I ran into two girls here that I've lived around the world with my husband's work. Budapest and Virginia, and they saw me when I was quite sick. And anyways, I'm just so grateful to be on this side of it. I don't have perfect health, but I live the robust life. We live on 19 acres in Salmon, Idaho, next to the river, and just been homeschooling. You know, you'll be very proud of me. When I lived in Budapest, I homeschooled, get ready, illegally. Yes, so thank you. So anyhow, let's jump in and start learning a little bit about homeopathy and what it is exactly, okay? In homeopathy, so feel free to take your phones out and take notes. If you signed up to my email list, I will send you the PowerPoint slides to this presentation so you can have it. Does anyone know where that little list is? My clipboard thingy? Somewhere, anywhere? Boys, where's my clipboard with my thing, the emails? Oh, good. Okay, so if you need it, just kind of make sure it gets around to people. Okay, never mind. You're off the hook. So in homeopathy, symptoms are gifts. Now, in conventional medicine, we always think like they're just treating the symptoms. They're not treating the core problem, right? Homeopathy actually likes symptoms, not because you're just treating the symptoms, because the symptoms lead us to the core problem. So it's a very logical process in homeopathy. So in homeopathy, symptoms are gifts. And so typically when a mom calls me like, oh, Paola, my daughter's sick, we never suppress symptoms, because when we suppress symptoms, you're essentially deleting your roadmap to identifying the correct remedy, okay? So you'd never suppress symptoms. So a mom will call me, my daughter has a fever, and now I want more information. I'm like, okay, well, I want to know the quality of the fever, because all the little details matter. So I'll be like, well, how high is the fever? Let's start with that. Oh, I don't know, actually. I'm like, well, can you just like take her temperature? No, I gave her Tylenol, so I don't know how high it is. I'm like, all right, well, I can't help you because you've deleted my roadmap. You need to wait for that to wear off, then call me. Okay, so you never suppress symptoms, but it's not just the fact that it deletes your roadmap. Anytime you suppress, you are driving those symptoms deeper into the body so that they become buried alive and they will come back with a vengeance. So we know this instinctively. We know that if you take antibiotics, you're damaging your gut biome, and then something chronic like celiac disease will come or whatever, right? And so whatever you're doing, you never want to suppress symptoms because you're burying those alive. You guys, we know this. Like if I have like a paper here, here's a paper plate. What if I wanted to make this go away, like disappear out of thin air, actually disappear? Could I do that? No. Let's try. What could we do to this?
You can throw it away.
Well, I can throw it away, but it's in the trash. I could burn it, but it just transformed. It's just ashes. It's not gone. I could put it in water or chemical water. It would be like floaties, but it's still there. So really, you can't make matter disappear. It is the same with your bodies. When you are sick with an illness, you have a cold. Just because you can't hold it on a plate and look at it, I suppose you can blow your nose, and that's part of it. But the actual disease is these microscopic, whatever virus, whatever bacteria, whatever it is that's affecting you, the product is in your body. When you take your body is trying to push it out into the world and get rid of it. So an important stage of any illness is pushing. So like when your children have fevers, they'll have a fever the first day, and then in the morning it'll be gone. Then in the evening it's back. Then in the morning it's gone. Then in the evening it's back. Then one morning they wake up sweaty. The fever's gone. Because that's the final stage of an illness. Thank you so much. This helps I don't have to yell so much. Okay, so, ooh, hello. Hello. No, that's fine. I'll just, okay, sure. I think that's good. Okay, so what ends up happening then is the final stage of the illness is to push it out. Snot, sometimes there's diarrhea. It's pushing it back out into the world. And then what happens when it goes into the world? I don't know, it goes into decomposition, right? And that's exactly what you should probably do with this plate. You should probably just decompose it and grow a flower and create new life. But when you take an antibiotic, when you take an antipyretic like Tylenol, when you take a steroid, you're suppressing, and your body literally can't push that weakness out, and now it's stuffed inside of you. And the more you layer years and years of stuffed, suppressed disease over and over again, your body says, okay, we're so confused, we're going to start attacking you and create an autoimmune disease or whatever it is that your genetics prefer. In my case, it was bladder. In your case, it might be joints or whatever it is, lungs, who knows, asthma. So it's very important to not suppress diseases because one, it's your roadmap to finding the remedy, and two, you don't want to suppress and burden your body. You want your body to push out and get it out. So, okay, so let's talk about homeopathy. There's three main things. The first is the law of similars. The second is symptoms are gifts, which I've told you, and the symptoms guide you to the right remedy. So the law of similars is most easily explained by the quintessential example of the onion. So let's pretend we were inside my RV, in which I lived in for 3 years, and it was horrible. And we were in that tiny kitchen, and let's say we had a 5-gallon bucket of onions, and we just wanted to chop them all, and their windows are closed. What symptoms am I going to develop? Watery eyes, go on. Runny nose, but what kind of runny nose? We would try and be very specific in homeopathy. Clear. It's not going to be green. Okay, what else? My eyes will burn, my nose will burn. And then in homeopathy, part of the symptoms involve what makes it better, what makes it worse. So being in the RV is probably not helping. What can I do to feel better? Go outside into fresh air. Have you guys ever had a cold or allergies where for whatever weird reason when you stepped outside your nose cleared up? Has anyone ever noticed that? Some people will be like, oh yeah, I do remember that. So when your symptoms mimic onion, you can take the homeopathic form of onion and that will stimulate a cure in your body. That's the law of similars. And this law is really universal. If you want love, you need to give love, right? So in homeopathy, we take inventory of your symptoms, we prioritize the most significant ones, and then we match that to a homeopathic remedy who has those same symptoms as the most significant symptoms of the remedy, okay? So that's like heals like. That's the law of similars. It's a matching game. So when Christian came out of the bathroom yesterday, or last Thursday, he had his hand and he was pushing on it and he was holding it in place. He's like, it's like walking hurts. And if you're just kind of gently walking across the floor, you're not moving very much. Maybe your legs or your foot's moving, but like your appendix, the affected part is not moving very much. So keep that in mind. He was holding it. That's a keynote symptom. It's a symptom that they're doing the most. Some people might be very thirsty and they might drink lots of water. Some people might have a headache every time they cough, or they'll hold their chest every time they cough. So you just pay attention to those symptoms. I love talking to moms who've been learning homeopathy for a while because they'll call me like, can you help me figure something out? And they just know their symptoms. They have a really good inventory of it, and it makes it so much easier to find the right remedy. So that's the law of similars. Okay, the second thing with homeopathy is that we're not actually eating an onion, thankfully. Especially because in homeopathy, we love our poisons. And I'll explain why in a second. You're not going to take poison, I swear. I know you're here, but that's not what we're going to talk about. So we love our poisons because think about it. If you are, let's say, your mom left out ham for 3 days, and you come home from Boy Scouts and you're like, oh, yum, ham, and you eat it because you're a Boy Scout, you have no idea that it does not taste right because, that's what you do. And so you're eating the ham and you have a big plate full of it. You're going to be quite sick, right? You're going to be very sick. So the kind of thing that's going to mimic that isn't going to be an onion. It's probably going to be a poison. That if you were to ingest a poison, it would produce that kind of intense reaction to you, right? And so in homeopathy, we love our poisons, but it's a very safe form of medicine. It's 200 years old. By now, we would know if this medicine was unsafe, right? So how do they make it safe? How is homeopathy so safe? It's through a process of dilution. It's a sequential process of dilution. So let me say, so in homeopathy, we have if you've ever looked at a homeopathy bottle, and actually I have an example here, hang on. Ooh. This is a kit that I put together with a company called Alois, and they're very nice to me. And actually, I've been giving out some little business card things. You can order it from their website, and you can get a discount on the kit or their whole website. But this is an awesome starter kit. But if you look at a homeopathic remedy, this is a single remedy. Sometimes they'll sell like cough, cold, it comes in a bigger box. But this is a single remedy. And on it, it says 30C. So what does C stand for in Roman numerals? 100. What about X? 10. What about M? 1,000. Okay. So this indicates the amount of dilution that the original substance has gone through. So 30C means that they take, let's say, a drop of onion. So, you know, the Materia Medica explains, like, okay, it's like they usually take the herb or the plant or whatever it is, they dry it, they put it in alcohol, create a tincture. They take a drop of that tincture, the mother tincture, put it in a bottle, they dilute it with 99 drops of water. 1 plus 99 is 100, that's 1C. They shake it. They take 1 drop out of that, put it in another bottle, add 99 drops of water. That's 2C. Take a drop out of that, 3C. And they go all the way to 30C, to the point that this product at the end, strictly speaking from a chemical standpoint, is water. They actually tend to add a little alcohol in it to preserve it, to keep it from getting moldy. And this is why so many people are so skeptical of homeopathy, because they're like, it's magic water, you idiot. What are you doing? You know, and I'm like, well, it's fine. I'm an imperialist in the sense of I will try it for myself. And if it works, great. If not, I'll move on. That's the way I go. So what ends up happening is, and this is kind of interesting, people are always like, how does homeopathy work? Like, it's just water. I'm like, okay, think of it in this way. Our immune system is designed to detect very tiny things. In 2020, there was this very tiny thing called coronavirus. And that sure did a lot in the world, didn't it? Caused a lot of mayhem and even stupidity, you know, even caused that, amazingly, right? So what happens is our immune system is very good at detecting tiny things. Viruses are measured in nanoparticles. Bacteria is measured in nanoparticles. You know, mold and fungus can be very tiny. Pollen, right? These are small things. So what ends up happening is, let's say you're sick, and let's say you have a cold, and let's say your cold is mimicking onion. So you have an allium cepa cold. That's Latin for onion. In homeopathy, we use the Latin term for everything. So we don't do like lunesta, Viagra. No, we're just telling you what it is. Latin used to be the universal language. It is onion, therefore we use Latin allium cepa. So let's say you have an allium cepa cold, and you're sick, and you're not feeling well, and if your immune system could talk to you, it would be like, human, hello, we're very sorry about this cold or your allergies or whatever it is. We're very sorry. We're trying to fix it, but unfortunately, that last round of antibiotics you took deleted the guidebook on it, so we're kind of confused and lost. Or let's say it's a chronic thing. Now, chronic things you want to work with a homeopathic practitioner. You don't want to do chronic stuff on your own. That's where you can cause trouble and confuse your immune system and make it worse. So I highly recommend working with a homeopath if it's something chronic. But this is just a cold. And so your immune system is like, sorry, human, we're going to keep trying, but thanks a lot, no thanks. So you're there miserable, you're tired, you have to go to your kid's soccer game, you're tired, you wish you could feel better. And then you're like, you know, I'm going to try this homeopathy stuff. And then you take 1 pellet and you drop it under your tongue. Usually it takes 2 to 3 doses for you to notice. But what ends up happening is, if it's the correct remedy, if it's the right remedy, your body is going to see this like nanoparticles, teeny tiny amounts, you know, of onion entering your system, and your body misinterprets it as an invading illness. So it's like your immune system goes, oh, everyone stop fighting the cold. We're getting attacked by an onion. Everybody go fight the onion. So your immune system mounts an attack to fight off the onion, but the onion's not attacking it. It's not a bad thing. It's just kind of tricking your body. Your body goes to fight the onion, and what does it cure on accident? The cold. Because it's mounting a similar attack, but it couldn't figure out the cold for whatever reason. It was confused, but the onion gave it the right information to fight off, almost by accident, the cold. See what that is? So in terms of like homeopathic medicines that were made from poisons, we have arsenicum album, which is made from arsenic. So one time I accidentally food poisoned my whole family, and there was like a box of bone broth that was like partially open. I remember when I opened the lid, I was like, that felt a little bit weird. I'm sure it's fine. I sniffed it. I'm like, oh, it's fine. And then I put it in the soup. Everybody got sick like at the same time after dinner. And I gave everybody our Seneca album. Next morning, we had an interesting bowel movement, and all was well. So, so this is where the symptoms matter, and you're trying to match the symptom to the person. So in homeopathy, we also have this thing called a materia medica. And you know about that because you're one of my homeopaths. But a materia medica is basically like a dictionary. And it's they have this in herbal medicine and other forms of medicine too. But in homeopathy, it's like a dictionary where all of the medicines that you need, like all of these ones and hundreds more, are listed alphabetically. And it's highly organized because under each remedy, you'll have like a section that talks about, generally speaking, this remedy. And then it'll break it down by body systems. Usually it goes from the top down. So it'll be like head, throat, mouth, tongue, chest, digestion, urogenital, all the way down, So so if you, let's say you're sick with a cough, you might focus on the chest section of that remedy. You don't need to look at the whole body, but you're sick right here. So with my son, I was looking at kind of like this. It didn't really have a specific pelvis area, but just like generally he was having a hard time walking because he was in pain. So the nice thing is, as you learn homeopathy, you're going to want a materia medica because you might do like for me, I Google searched, what are the top remedies for appendicitis? Came up with a list of 12 of them. I'm at the point now where I can scan that list, and I'm like, oh, maybe. And then I might go to my materia medica, look up the maybe remedies, and narrow it down further, okay? And quick tip, I always recommend this to moms, when you're in the materia medica looking, pick your primary choice and your backup choice, because then you don't have to go back and start all over if your primary choice didn't work out. So, and the nice thing is, if you pick the wrong remedy, nothing will happen if you don't keep taking it. So I always say within 3 to 4 doses, so just one pellet under the tongue as a dose, wait a little while before your second, but by the 3rd or 4th dose, if there's no shift, no improvement, you're probably on the wrong remedy and you need to abandon it and go back to the drawing board and pick another one. So let's talk about dosing actually. So essentially, like I said, within 3 to 4 doses, you want to see an improvement. You want to see a shift. Now, if you're chronic, if you're trying to do your arthritis or whatever it is, your autoimmune disease, this does not apply. It will take at least 8 weeks for you to notice that improvement, okay? Because chronic means you spend a long time getting this disease, so it's going to take a little bit longer to get better. But an acute illness, a proper acute illness like a flu or an ear infection, you should see an improvement because you haven't had that for very long, right? So you should see an improvement. So 3 to 4 doses, you should see an improvement. If not, stop and switch to the next remedy. And there's a couple of different ways to dose, but I'm going to teach you guys the loading dose. So what we did with Christian, which is, do you need me? Oh, you have a question? Yep. Oh, right, good, okay.
So you said pellet?
Yes, so if you twist this lid here, so most single remedy bottles that look like this, it looks like a chapstick tube, and if you shake it, you can hear stuff. But you twist this lid, and out will drop a pellet into the lid. The medicine is coated on the outside of the pellet, so you don't want to like rub it on your fingers and like wipe it off. And then you twist the lid, and then you drop it, and then you dump it in your mouth. So that's how it works. So the bottle will say like 3 to 4. 1 is plenty.
Are they basically salt tablets?
They're lactose pellets typically, except for this one is lactose free, so it must be beet sugar or something.
On your tongue or under?
Under the tongue, but like a baby won't, so who cares? Just put it in their mouth and it's fine. You can even put it like in a water bottle. Like when my son broke his arm, my older son that's on his mission, he broke his wrist, and like doctors, hospitals, they're like not happy when you're like taking stuff, and so I just put it in a water bottle, and he just sipped his happy water and never needed any painkillers at all. I actually, in that case, I put a couple of remedies in there, not just one. Usually try and stick to one, but in his case, I used a few. So essentially, there's the loading dose. The loading dose is where you take 1 dose, so a pellet, every 15 minutes for an hour. So that's 4 times. So you take one now, 15 minutes later, another one, 15 minutes later, another one. And then by the time you're at the hour mark, that's 4. Okay? So that's a good way to kind of, and you can only do that in an acute. And I'm usually doing that when I'm kind of worried. Like, I remember one time my kids actually, when someone gets sick, the first thing I do is nothing. Because just like a flower is blooming, it takes a little bit for it to fully open up. An illness takes a little bit to open up, to really show all of its symptoms. I don't like jumping in when I only have half the information and throwing remedies at someone. I prefer to so when my kids tell me we're sick, I'm like, all right, sit here, I will watch you. And they're like, ugh, So all my kids, once they had like fevers, Christian and Eva were very sick. And they were like, by the time I really paid, because I had work, by the time I really paid attention to him, he was like writhing in pain. And so like, okay, we're going to do a loading dose for him. My daughter, I did not do a loading dose. I just gave her once, like every few hours, and she was fine. And I got that one right. So anyways, so by the 4th dose, he was asleep. That's improvement. By the first or second dose, it could happen. It doesn't have to be the 4th dose. Sometimes, especially this one, they would get a high fever. Is that good or bad? Good. It's a sign they're moving in the right direction. So a fever where they didn't have one before generally means good. Unless they're like screaming and restless and psychotic, then that's not good. So, but generally, if there's a peaceful like calm that hits them when they get that fever, and that's a good thing. So let's talk about some of the top homeopathic remedies, because I just have about less than 30 minutes left. So, okay, so let's start with a very big favorite of mine. It's called belladonna. Red hot throbbing. Those are the keynote symptoms of belladonna. So my son Christian, he had the most antibiotics of all my children before I knew better. And he used to get not fevers of 101, not 2. How high do you think they got? 6. Well, 105 if I did it under his armpit, 106 if I did it rectally. That's why you should never take the rectal temperature. And sorry, Christian. He's like, oh my gosh, Mom. Yes, sorry, Christian. This is what I do all over the country. So you didn't know that. So he would get fevers of 105, 6, and it was terrifying to me. Terrifying. The interesting thing about Christian is he had the most antibiotics, and around that time, and this is when we lived in Virginia, around that time, he was having these weird digestive symptoms, and he was going to the bathroom, and his bowel movements were black, like tar. And it wouldn't go away, so I finally took him to a GI doctor, and they put him under anesthesia, put him to sleep, which I wish I hadn't done. He actually, when he woke up, almost died. He had a very hard time breathing. It was very scary. And the doctor said, I have seen this a million times. Your son has Crohn's disease. I promise he has Crohn's disease. He was like 2 or 3. He was little. And I was like, no. Sure enough, the labs came back and they were negative. But I knew in my gut he was on the cusp of developing a positive test result. It was around that time that he would get sick and he would throw fevers of 105 and 6. That would give me immediate anxiety diarrhea. And I would check on him, run to the bathroom, and then I'd run to the medicine cabinet and I would open and I would look at my Tylenol. And I would close it and back away slowly. And I had this voice inside that said, don't suppress this. What started happening is after every one of these high fevers, 4 weeks later, his digestion would improve a little bit. And then 6, 9 months later, he'd get sick again. He'd throw a high fever. A month later, his digestion would improve. His belly would hurt less. It's like those fevers was his body. Remember, I'd stuffed all those ear infections, all those vaccines I did to him. His body stuffed weaknesses because I always did antibiotics. And then that fever was purging. He would always sweat. He would always have a little bit of diarrhea. And he was pushing, his body was like, let's try and do a Hail Mary on this kid and get him not to develop Crohn's. And by the time he was 9, 10 years old, because we kept him off gluten for a long time, pretty good. I'm not surprised his appendix acted up, though.
So how did you treat in the moment?
Belladonna. Belladonna, red, hot, throbbing. His face would get red. His eyes would dilate, which is a classic belladonna symptom if you have a fever. You don't have to have a fever. But so belladonna, it will come on suddenly. You'll throw a high fever, and people are like, oh, he spiked a 101. And I'm like, you are a lightweight. So with children, they go 105 or above, not newborn babies. Newborn babies are different. You don't want them to have fevers, okay? We're talking like fat, chubby babies with rolls and toddlers and up, okay? And then in adults, a high fever is like 104. And so I think adults freak out when they see high fevers in children because they're not used to seeing that. But the only reason adults don't get high fevers is because we're old and decrepit, okay? Children are young and vital, and they have this vitality, and they heal quickly, and they bounce back quickly, and that's why they throw high fevers. Adults can't. We're just old and decrepit. So you should be grateful when your kid gets a high fever, they're killing off cancer cells and they're doing their body a lot of good. Actually, it's a shame they don't get the measles anymore. Measles tends to produce very high fevers. They find that when children have high fevers, they can speak more words, they can walk better, they have better fine motor skills, they can think better. It's a very important part of their development process. So this is being recorded, so I'm not going to tell you about the time that I traveled somewhere to try and find something for my daughter, but she didn't get it anyways, so I was mad about it. So, because I would like them to have, these are good things, these are milestones in their bodies, and they're not getting this anymore. And we wonder, why do kids have ADHD? Why do they have all of these emotional issues? And I think we can't point it to one thing, but it's a constellation of things, and I think the measles are a blessing. People who had measles as children, like me in Brazil, they have a much lower rate of cancer. It's amazing. It's amazing. So belladonna, red, hot, throbbing, tends to have a sudden onset. Christian, who used a lot of belladonna throughout his life, one day we were having a family vacation, and he got in the hot tub with his cousins, came out, and he's like, Mom, my ear hurts. And I was like, okay, oh, well, go lay down. We're going out to dinner like all the adults are. When I come back, I'll come check on you. By the time I came back, his eardrum burst. We call that rapid onset. We call that often belladonna, okay? And he had a fever and everything. So anyways, poor kid. No, belladonna is a poisonous nightshade, so we're talking homeopathic belladonna, highly diluted, very safe. So it would look like this or the blue bottle in the store. So please don't take the herb. Okay.
But you didn't put it in tepid water.
No, I don't put them in tepid water because I don't want to reduce the fever. I actually, when I got COVID, when I got the Rona, because we flew back from Budapest, we didn't ever do that, hokey pokey. But we on the flight, when everybody else was vaccinated, is when I caught the virus for the first time. And so I got home like a week later, I came down with the symptoms. I climbed into a hot bath because I'm old and decrepit and my body has a hard time making a fever, right? So I climb into a hot bath to kind of assist. So I actually do the very opposite of tepid water.
Okay, but if it's so extreme,
Yes, so,
with the small one, and they start to convulse.
yep. So he's worried about convulsions, and he's worried about, okay, so fever seizures have nothing to do with the height of the fever. It has to do with how quickly the fever comes on. So a rapid onset up or down. So my sister-in-law had a baby. She was holding her. The baby got a fever, and it came on very quickly. It wasn't necessarily very high. It got to like 102, but it came on very quickly. She started convulsing. What did? They threw her under the cold water. This perpetuated the seizure because now it went up quickly, and now it's going down quickly. And now that little girl couldn't get out of that seizure, and she had to go to the hospital. So I don't like changing the body temperature. Even tepid, it can be too much for someone. So fever seizures are actually quite benign. They're very scary to witness, but they rarely cause any damage. So if you want to learn more about fevers and if fevers make you anxious, get the book How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor by Dr. Roger Mendelsohn. It's an excellent book. He has a whole chapter on fevers, which I wore out with my son. And so again, How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. He talks about fevers of 106 and below are fine if they're hydrated. And so there's certain things you have to do to make sure it's safe. If hydration is a huge one, small people dehydrate very quickly because there's it doesn't take much to, lose all that water. So you do have to be careful. I had a friend once call me when her son, she actually was sitting under, this is what we think happened. He had a fever. The fever had been going on for a while, so it wasn't going up. The going up stage was past. But she was in Arizona, and she had him on her lap kind of uncovered because he was hot, and she was right under the air conditioning vent in the summer, and it turned on and it blew on him hard. She didn't notice, but it dropped his fever, and he started to seize. And so they called 911, and then they called me. And I answered the phone, and I was like, okay, did he scream out? Because I know remedies in my head. And I was like, did he scream out right before it started? Yes. And I'm like, and did his eyes roll back in the back of his head? Yes. And she's like, how do you know this? And then I was like, okay, give him cuprum metallicum, which is copper, homeopathic copper. It's a very great fever seizure remedy. She put it in his mouth, and that little boy stopped seizing. And so by the time the ambulance came, they were like, everything's fine. We're not even going to take him in. And they said, it's okay. It's not, it's scary, but he's fine. He's fine. Very scary. It is very scary, but there's a lot you can learn about fevers and being careful with them. So, okay, let's learn some more remedies. Aconitum napellus is another fantastic remedy. Like belladonna, it has a very sudden onset. So I went to bed one night. I woke up, swallowed. I had strep throat. Aconitum napellus, and I'll spell it for you guys. ACONITUM. Then the second word is napellus, NAPELLUS. And just so you know, if you sign up to my email list, I will be emailing you guys my slides. So Aconitum napellus has a very fast onset. You go to bed, I feel great. You wake up in the morning, you swallow, you're like, where did this come from? I feel like I was just hit by a truck. That's Aconitum napellus. You'll go outside and you're fine all day and you're playing outside and it's kind of cold. There's a cold wind. That's another symptom of aconite. And then you come inside and you're like, oh, I don't feel so good. I'm starting to feel kind of sick. So that's an aconite state. So it's not what the illness is or where it is. It's the suddenness of the onset. I met a woman once who witnessed a car accident. And it shocked her. And she would have these little panic attacks when she would think about this car accident, or she would get in the car. And we gave her 1 dose of aconite. And it's so subtle that she forgot about it. She didn't even know it got better. And I was like, hey, did that aconite help you with the car accident thing? And she's like, oh, I haven't had one since. And it used to happen once every couple months. So, and that's the homeopathy. It's very gentle. Sometimes it doesn't get credit when it deserves it because it's so intense. So, any questions about that remedy? So that one is just sudden onset. The person actually might fear death, which the car accident had that, right? She was like, it was so shocking. I'm scared I'm going to die. Actually, here's a story. This time it's not about you, Christian. So his older brother, when we lived in Budapest, actually, Megan, my son Mateus, they allow you to shoot bigger fireworks than you're allowed to shoot over here. And so we had shut off all these fireworks on the 4th of July, on New Year's. And we have these giant aerial fireworks, and they were the best. Well, we, in the coat closet, missed one. And my son was 12, which is when they lose their brain cells. And so, so he was downstairs with Christian in the living room, and I'm upstairs homeschooling my daughter like a good mom, illegally, and I hear this bang, really loud bang, and I thought they slammed the door, and I'm like, this is a rental? For goodness sakes. So I just kind of sat there quietly. Eve and I were looking at each other. And then I heard, and then I hear them running up the stairs, come in my room. He has shot off his hand, not off his hand, but his hand looked like burnt flesh. He had been taking the lighter. I'm gonna light it. No, just kidding. I'm gonna light it. No, just kidding. And then he lit it because those fuses are quite flammable. Funny, huh? And then it thankfully shot out of his hand before it exploded under the couch, which is why couches have anti-inflammatory fabric underneath. Have you ever wondered why? Why? It's for stupid 12-year-olds. So I run downstairs to make sure nothing's on fire, and Christian's opening up all the windows. I had nothing to do with it. It was all Mateus, So then I go back upstairs, and he's looking at me. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Sudden onset, fear of death, shock. I literally went to my kit, took a pellet out, dropped it in his mouth, and I kid you not, guys, it was the most amazing thing. He went like this. And to himself, he said, maybe I'm not going to die. But it burns. It burns, it burns, it burns, it burns. So like the shock passed. And then I gave him a different remedy called cantharis. So let's learn about that one.
Can I?
Yes.
So the aconitum napellus that you're just talking about has saved my baby from having to go to the hospital with croup.
Oh, really? Yes.
He's so
Big
panicked,
croup.
and he was very,
So he had croup.
really good one for that.
So if you ever have a kid with croup, just type homeopathy croup. You'll find an article or two that lists some remedies. And aconite is a great croup remedy, but she just said he was very panicked.
Yes.
That would, I like to say, you look for a three-legged stool when you pick remedies. So a three-legged stool is, what are their 3 top symptoms, and does it match the remedy's 3 top symptoms? So I'm giving you guys the keynotes. Sudden onset, fear of death. So their eyes will usually be really big. And they're kind of freaked out, and they can't breathe or whatever. So they can be in a very scary state.
And like the hot water was like that helped the other kid.
Yes,
Not
didn't
much.
help them. Yep.
So
Yeah,
grateful.
the hot water didn't. Yes,
So grateful for this remedy.
they're amazing. They're so amazing. So let's talk about cantharis real quick, and then I'll probably do one more remedy, and then we'll take a break. Well, let me tell you guys cantharis in 1 second. First, I'm going to talk about bryonia, which is a big remedy. I'll take questions in a bit. So bryonia is a really cool remedy that is worse from movement. So any slight movement hurts, but it's not their whole body, the affected part. So when people need bryonia and they have a cough, it tends to be a dry cough, and so we like to say dryonia just to kind of remember. Dryonia, bryonia. So they'll hold their chest, because think about it, when you cough, your chest isn't moving a ton, but just that slight movement, they'll hold it. Or if they have a headache, they'll hold their head still because they don't need the blood vessels like expanding, just that little bit. They tend to be very thirsty, although not always. When my son broke his wrist, he couldn't move it even a little bit, and that was enough for him to need a very strong amount of bryonia. We did a 1M bryonia. And then he just had to keep it perfectly still. I've seen people need bryonia for coughs. I mean, it's probably one of my favorite remedies. So bryonia is worse from movement, and there's tends to be dryness. Although with my son and the broken wrist, there was no dryness. He was just not wanting to move it. So, okay, now cantharis. Cantharis is a remedy made from the blister beetle. Actually, you might have heard of doctors using this for warts. Have you ever seen that like juice stuff that they put on warts to create a blister? It's like gross and barbaric, but anyways. So the homeopathic form is, it's for any burns, especially the blistering kind. So when I burnt myself one time terribly on some hot glue, it was so bad because the hot glue is hot, but you can't yank it off because it'll burn your other little, piggies. So you're just like, oh dear, so it was very painful, and it sat there before I could pull it off. And I remember looking at it and telling my husband, I'm not going to be able to sleep all night because this is so painful. And there was a blister there, and it just really hurt. And so then I remembered cantharis for burns. I took 1 dose of cantharis, and that burn felt 5 days old. That's the only way I can describe it. It just speeds up the healing. If you're walking with brand new shoes and it's creating that blister on your foot and it's burning, that will be good. It doesn't help all sunburns, but those really white people that get like blister sunburns? That works quite well. So cantharis would work quite well for that. I find there's other remedies for like not so white people burns. So because we don't blister. So okay, so back to my son's appendix. I have taught you this fine day the remedy in which I gave him. And you know his symptom. Which remedy did I give him? Bryonia, yep. I did consider belladonna because he's responded so well to belladonna in the past. So I don't know if you remember this, Christian. I said, what does it feel like? He's like, I don't know, it just hurts. And my kids are very good about like paying attention to their symptoms, because if they don't have a lot of symptoms, I'm like, you're not sick enough for homeopathy, then walk it off. Because I don't like just giving him a remedy for everything. So he was thinking about it. He's like, Mom, honestly, it's just like when I cough, it hurts. When I walk, it hurts. When I went to the restroom and had some urging, it hurt. So it was just the movement. Because I'm like, okay, is it throbbing? Because red hot throbbing, maybe the appendix was red, I don't know. But, is it throbbing? Because that might point me. And it did kind of come on suddenly, right? The symptoms came out. So I was like, sudden onset. And if he had said, it's throbbing, I might have leaned more belladonna, which is a common appendicitis remedy. And just keep in mind, if you're having intense appendicitis, you should go to the hospital. I would have taken him, because that can be serious, obviously. But it was beginning stage. So we did Bryonia 200. And he just took it on, every few hours. I did not do the loading dose because he was not in extreme pain. And it worked out. He was totally fine. So, there is a time for doctors and hospitals and to be aware. But just think red light, yellow light, green light. Green light, you're fine. Yellow light, not so good. It starts getting darker towards red. And eventually it will, it might turn red, and that's when you should go to the doctor or the hospital. So, okay, I have 6 minutes left. What questions can I answer? I think you had a question a little bit ago.
So if I understood you correctly, you only take one dose at a time? You wouldn't take more than one homeopathic?
Yeah, typically I don't like to mix homeopathic remedies. I like to pick one remedy, and that's very classical. There's other methods where they mix them. And when my son broke his wrist, he did take hypericum, which is a nerve shooting pain, which he had, Bryonia, and arnica, which is like the classic bumps, bruises. So I gave him all three. That's not too typical for me. Because what I find is that sloppy homeopathy is when moms are just throwing a bunch of remedies at someone. And I like tidy homeopathy. So yes, so she's just asking about mixing remedies, and I just prefer to do one. So I gave him one for fear because he was freaking out, and then it passed. And then he started complaining about the burn. He hadn't been complaining about it before because he was in shock. So that's more in concert, not like throwing it all in there at the same time. Once the symptoms change. And honestly, sometimes with a cough, it might sound like croupy, and then it gets better and it sounds less croupy. I tend to stick with the remedy until it's not working anymore, typically. But in that case, it was so obvious, shocked, burning, I was like, I'm going to switch. Acylcocainum, the homeopathic OCC acylcocainum, is a big flu and cold remedy. And it tends to work better if you can take it in the early stage of the illness, because that's when your symptoms in the early stage matches the acylcocainum better.
And so is it more concentrated?
No, it's not more concentrated. It's just like a homeopathic remedy. It's just one of the ones. Yep. Yep. Someone else had a question here. Okay, yes, hello?
Two questions. Where does this essential oils fit within your discipline?
So essential oils are wonderful, but they do tend to neutralize homeopathy. Homeopathy is very, very gentle, so you don't want to ever store your essential oils in the same space as your remedies, so like different cabinet. And then you want to avoid the peppermints, the mints, the eucalyptus, because those are deeply aromatic and they tend to neutralize homeopathy. Having said that, I love my essential oils. They keep me healthy. If I'm a little stressed, if I'm a little upset, might take some lavender. If someone has a cat, I might do lavender, lemon, that little mix. So I do use my essential oils, but homeopathy is medicine for when you're truly sick, like a line going up your hand because of an infection or cellulitis or appendix. That's, that goes, I think, beyond what typical essential oils will do. So.
Okay. Secondly, maybe your son could answer. Did you notice when he broke his wrist? Mm-hmm. Did you notice cold, clammy hand?
Yes, when my son broke his wrist, he did have cold, clammy hand.
Now, have you ever had somebody come to you with a sprain and notice warm, overly warm?
So he's asking if I've had someone with a sprain, have I noticed warm over warm? Yes. Yep. And all those different symptoms point to different remedies, especially for sprains. There's like broken bone, pretty much everyone's going to want some bryonia because who wants to move a broken bone, right? But sprains can have a lot of different remedies, and you kind of need to look at it. If it's hot and swollen versus, there's different sprains. So, yep. Yep, you're welcome. Okay, so many questions. Let me try and get someone that hasn't asked one yet. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of my concerns or hesitations has been with the light. If I don't have the symptoms right for my children and I'm giving them one, that it might
Cause a problem. So she's worried if she's trying to match the symptoms, she's kind of getting analysis paralysis because she's worried, what if this is the wrong one? So this room is full of dust. It's probably, your body probably has some bacteria on it, and your body is fine. So just because homeopathy is highly diluted, if it's the wrong remedy, your body tends to just ignore it, like it's ignoring the pollen in the room. However, if you keep taking it, you can actually start bringing on the symptoms of the remedy, and those are transient in nature. We call that approving. If you, let's say, take allium cepa and you just didn't know any better, actually, I did this with a UTI once when I was very, very new. I took cantharis, because think about it, burning, painful, scalding. I took cantharis, and I'm like, after the third dose, I'm like, this feels great. I went for the fourth, went for the fifth, like it was a vitamin. By the time I got to my 9th dose, the symptoms came back, and I was proving the remedy. And so then I just had to wean off, and the symptoms went back to getting improved. So you can prove a remedy, whether it's the right one or the wrong one. That's why I keep saying, after the 3rd or 4th dose, either it's improving or it's not. If it's not improving, stop. If it is improving, back off. Just take it less frequent. You still need it, but you don't need to take it every 15 minutes. Take it every 3 hours, and just kind of like Tylenol. Like if you have a headache, you're not going to keep taking Tylenol unless it comes back, right? Not that you would take Tylenol, right, guys? Okay. But like you just follow your body, and that's what you're doing with homeopathy. You're just kind of following your body and chasing those symptoms. So, yep. In the back. Hydrochloroquine? No.
chlorine dioxide.
I don't know what that is, guys, and I have not taken it. Okay, here's the thing. I don't know what chlorine dioxide is, but I think it's something that might be similar to other things like colloidal silver. It's kind of helping kill off bacteria. I'm not a fan. It's not. What does it do? What does it do? Is it to kill something?
Oxidizes more than anything.
Okay, well, I'd have to look into it, but what I will say is I don't like medicines. Okay, I have a colloidal silver machine, so I'm not anti-colloidal silver. I would definitely do colloidal silver before I ever did an antibiotic first, okay? So like it's my Hail Mary if I need it, so it's fine. However, for example, when people get strep throat, they will take colloidal silver and spray it down their throat. And we did homeopathy. And so actually my entire family got strep throat once, and that can be serious. You probably want to work with a homeopath. It can turn into rheumatic fever or different complications, but it did not happen to us. We did it. We never got strep throat again. The entire homeschool co-op got strep throat. I'm on camera sipping water from my daughter, who she was the only one that did get strep throat because she never got it earlier because she was kind of a baby and her body warded it off. But she drank from my cup. I went and they backwash those kids, and I didn't know, and I drank from it. The next day, she was positive for strep throat, and she had a sore throat. That's why she was drinking my water. And I didn't get it. So I will hear mom say, well, every time we get strep throat, we spray colloidal silver down our throat. Did you catch it? Every time they get strep throat. If your immune system fights something off, the homeopathy is not killing the infection, you guys. It is getting you to fight the infection, which means you've created antibodies, which means you've now created some level of immunity. And so we might get strep throat again. I don't know how it works. I don't know if that's like a lifelong thing or if you forget after 10 years. But we have not gotten it ever again. But my friends that do colloidal silver, so I don't know much about this product. It might encourage your body to fight it off for you, or I don't know if it's killing it. So that's my only caution that I throw out there. So if it works great, that's great. But if you keep, like if you do it for strep throat and you keep getting strep throat, then I'd say that's suppressive. And I prefer homeopathy to educate your immune system to make you less susceptible. It's all about reducing susceptibility, if that makes sense. There's a higher goal. So yes, go ahead.
Say, for example, when you're taking homeopathy for a symptom, do you also avoid like supplements like?
So when I'm taking homeopathy for a symptom, like I do avoid essential oils, particularly the ones I listed, but do I avoid supplements? No. So this is what I do, like my son or my husband with a cellulitis. I dedicate to the remedy first because I need to know if he's improving by the remedy. Because if he is, that's the workhorse. That's what's going to do the biggest amount of lifting here. Once I know he's on the right remedy, then I do castor oil packs. Or in my husband's case with the cellulitis, I did high doses of liposomal vitamin C. Then I layer the extra stuff to support, but I'm not going to be, and I won't do colloidal silver. Again, that's my Hail Mary, so I have a machine and stuff, but that's what I avoid to try and help the body work it out fully and to become less susceptible. Yes?
So, one of the reasons I was really interested in being here tonight is because I am so tired of the medical industry making me worse.
Mm-hmm.
But Monday, no, Tuesday, yesterday, my eyes started to itch, and I got an instant, it was like a dime-sized bubble on top of my lid, blister.
Like a sty? You got a sty. So she's saying that she's sick of medical world kind of making her sicker, and she got a sty. Mm-hmm.
And the more I itched it,
The more she itched it, the more it got worse. Mm-hmm.
I did try some Melaleuca on it. Because I couldn't
Okay.
see
So she tried Melaleuca. Mm-hmm.
But I bet it's going down, it's coming back, it's going down, it's coming back. So I know that I don't want
So she's kind of on a yo-yo. It keeps getting worse and better, worse and better. So yeah, so again, whenever it comes to high doses of oregano oil, tea tree oil, I think these are all good things, but if you're trying to take high doses to kill something, if you're trying to put something on it to kill it, that is suppressive, and your body is not learning with it. So, I would look up homeopathy for styes or whatever and start looking through it. It's typically a little bit of staph, maybe, I think, yeah.
So this isn't about not the remedies, but your FDA stuff.
Yes.
What's the update?
Okay, so I'm president of Americans for Homeopathy Choice, and we are kind of close to introducing legislation to protect access to homeopathic medicines. FDA regulates the drugs, not the practice, but the drugs, and they're essentially trying to squash homeopathy, and so we're close to legislation.
Has it been better with Trump at all, or the same?
No, because the bureaucrats are still in charge of FDA, even though we love RFK. I think Marty McCary is a good commissioner, but the bureaucrats are still doing the inspections, and they've still continued to harm it. So we no longer have eye drops in this country because of FDA and other, homeopathic eye drops. We have conventional ones, but not homeopathic ones. So we're very close introduction to a bill, but actually I just got news about some, anyway, so it might take a little bit longer than I thought. So, yes.
You mentioned earlier that you treated your son's broken arm with homeopathy. Were you treating the broken bone, or were you treating the pain?
So I took him to the doctor to get the bone set, and so I was treating the pain to avoid that. Once the bone was set, then I also gave him a homeopathic remedy called symphytum, which knits the bones together more quickly. But you don't want to do that until the bone is set, because you don't want it to get set, to get knit wrong. So, yeah. Yep, let me get some, yes, sir.
So I've had eczema all my life.
Okay, so he's had eczema his whole life.
I've tried all kinds of different things. Nothing works. I'm on steroid creams to kind of suppress
Keep it under control.
So is there anything that you know that can help?
Yeah, so a lot of people, homeopathy has cured many, many people with eczema. You'd want to work with a professional homeopath with it. She's had eczema. She and her son have had eczema, and she's saying she got better. So it's definitely within the realm of possibility. You want to work with a homeopath because getting off those steroids can be intense. And just be aware of red skin syndrome that some people develop from taking steroids. And it's like, just look into it. what is it, topical steroid withdrawal, because that also might be something you're dealing with and you don't know about it. So research topical steroid withdrawal. So you might have eczema, but you might also be suffering. It's like your skin gets addicted to the steroids, and then the detox is pretty intense. But you might be struggling with that. So do look into it. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a 19-year-old that since she was 7, 8 years old, she's had pain, chronic pain. We've gone to the doctors. They thought she had. Here. We've gone to the doctors. They thought that she had Lyme's disease. They thought she had an autoimmune issue, lymphatic, all that. And they've done all the tests. They found nothing. Then I finally found a doctor who said, he's like, I know what's happening. She's manifesting this pain through her stress and anxiety. So he said, just like someone gets an upset stomach or diarrhea or migraine for anxiety and stress, she's manifesting it in chronic pain through her body. So I've been trying to find different things. We've done everything. The only thing that has helped are essential oils, but it doesn't last very long. And I want to try some homeopathics and see what would help.
So again, this is chronic. I would work with a homeopath. The frustration with even naturopathic medicine, and I'm not criticizing them, but the frustration is that's your doctor's hypothesis that she's manifesting it through stress, but he actually doesn't really know.
They don't have any answers.
Yep, they don't have any answers. And for doctors, if they don't find the answer, they can't really help. In homeopathy, it kind of doesn't matter. The homeopath looks at the symptoms, and the symptoms leads to a remedy that matches it, and thus the law of similars.
Okay, so if she has the symptoms of pain in her joint,
she'd need to work with a homeopath.
Oh, so just
it's chronic. Okay. Yeah, she'd need to work with a homeopath.
Okay, and how do I find a homeopath?
So a couple different ways. This is a good question. How do you find a homeopath? So you can go to my website, paolabrown.com/homie, H-O-M-I-E, like, hey, homie. I link to various directories. But homeopaths are like people. There's good ones, there's better ones, and there's crappy ones. So I do have a membership called the Homeopath Insider Circle. And when I email you guys can sign up. It's closed to the public right now. It's $50 a month. You get access to my custom pick directory. I coach you guys every Monday night. It's always recorded. I also have some books up here if you guys want to look at it. If you buy any of my bundles, so I have a homeschooling curriculum, 2 of them actually. One comes fully printed. It's the one on the box over here. Holistic Health Science is teaching about terrain theory. It's teaching about the top 19 remedies. It's teaching about suppression, all these things, a little bit of homeopathy history. So that program, if you buy that, you get a month free of my membership, which is a nice deal. I have the second one here, the green program, is called Evie and the Golden Homestead. So that's 19 new remedies. You can do either one. That one's a little cheaper because it's fully digital. So you could get that in your email and print it off. And then I do have a program for moms, and that's this one here. And again, if you buy any of these bundles, even this one, this is my cheapest program. You actually read one of my children's books, but there's an adult guide to it. I wrote my books like, I'm not Laura Ingalls Wilder, but I tried writing as good as her. But you know when you read those books, it's like fun and interesting and you learn a lot? That was my goal with so I say it's for ages 6 to 96. So this adult guide walks you through one of my novels, and it coaches you on everything we covered here on the basics and a little bit more. So if you buy any of these bundles, you can get 1 month free of my coaching group. And during that free month, just go to the directory and copy it all and save it. So, and then I do have a primer for kids, like a kindergarten primer. That's Letter of the Week program that teaches you A is for Arnica, B is for Belladonna. So it's a fun little way to learn. So, and yeah, my memory work music. This is great. Like if you go to iTunes or you can get the CD, I have music that teaches you all the 19 remedies. And then we just released part 2 that goes with my green program that teaches 19 different remedies. So it's quite beloved and really fun. So I did not sing them, but actually a local Utah gal, Jana Ray, did it. So yes. I do use herbal tinctures, yes. And I do find that herbal tinctures have the same deeper cure, not suppressing, not masking. So I do, but I use homeopathy much more. It's just what I'm better at. Hi, Celestia.
Your story about Christian and the belladonna, I was a little confused. You said you resisted the urge to suppress by using Tylenol, but did you use belladonna, and was that just to make it?
Yes. So my son, she's referring to when my son Christian had a high fever, and she's saying I resisted using the Tylenol, which I did, but I did use the belladonna, and the belladonna just allowed his body to do that fever more efficaciously, better. He was more restful. He'd slept so deeply when he had those high fevers. So yes. For kids, it's the same dosage as adult because we're not actually, remember, it's so highly diluted, we're not really giving them a dose, we're triggering their immune system. So, Shauna, how am I doing on time? Okay. All right. Well, if you guys want to order anything or just look at stuff and order later, that's fine. But you're welcome to come up here, and then I'm happy to answer questions. Yeah. This will be my last question.
What is your stance on parasite cleanses? And then second question, non-related. Do you ever do any of your treatments or cures, whatever, based on blood type?
Okay, so I don't do any cures or treatments based on blood type. I've looked at the blood type diet. I actually think it can be really great, so I'm not against it, but no, nothing with blood type. But the first question was parasites. So if you actually have parasites like pinworms or a tapeworm or whatever, homeopathy can be used for that, but boy, it is not for the weak of heart, because that, actually parasites are never for the weak of heart. So yeah, not fun. But if you're talking like we live on a homestead and animals abound, chickens abound, so we will once a year, I do BioRay. We'll do a parasite cleanse with herbs, just for like maintenance, and because I don't do ivermectin. You guys, ivermectin is wonderful if you really need it, but it is harsh, and it's like a antibiotic, but for parasites, and it's intense on your gut. I'm not a fan of, if I have cancer, like she'll probably do some ivermectin. You know what I mean? Like I'll try stuff, but I don't just. It's not a vitamin. So I take any pharmaceutical pretty seriously. So, yeah. Okay, well, sorry for going over, but feel free to come up and check stuff out and talk to me and ask me questions. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.